to the CMC laboratory, a room you will become very familiar with. Today's topic, lab safety. Lab safety is a major component of science education and is a vast culture you are very much a part of. Lab safety was developed to protect you based on past experiences from skilled scientists all over the world. Ideally, you will be covering lab safety every time you enter the lab, whether it be directly talking about it with your professor and/or pre-reading labs and safety data sheets. This video was designed to help develop your safety consciousness. Remember, prevention is the first step to achieving success in the laboratory. Before we get into the nitty-gritty of lab safety, let's get familiar with your laboratory. Here are the exits. Always be aware of your exit sites. Know where they are and always keep them clear. By each exit, there is also a fire extinguisher, with a third one inside the chemical storage room. How do you use one, you said? Great question. Pull the pin, aim at the base of the fire, and squeeze. If a fire becomes too large, stay calm, exit the building immediately, pull the fire alarm, and meet in the designated emergency location. In your case, the staff parking lot. A fire blanket can also be used to smother a small tabletop fire, as well as a person who has caught fire. The first aid kit is located next to the fire blanket for your convenience. Our fully equipped first aid kits have items that can be used for injuries such as burns, puncture wounds, cuts, etc. In the case of even the smallest incident, always alert your instructor of any injury sustained. Some ways to prevent injury from sharp objects and/or broken glass is to use your Sharps cleanup kit. It includes gloves, a broom, and a dustpan. Please refrain from using your bare hands to pick up broken glass. Remember to dispose of any broken glass in the designated glass disposal box. There are two, one on each side of the classroom. Anything with biohazard elements on them, such as blood, bodily fluids, human or animal waste, need to be disposed of in a biohazard waste container. If it is a sharp object with biohazard waste on it, such as a needle, dispose of them in the Sharps container. If it is not a sharp object, the waste can be disposed of in our biohazard waste bin. Now, if there has been a chemical spill, we also have a spill kit with items to absorb and/or neutralize some of the chemicals. Here is a bonus question. I want you to think about it. What do you use to neutralize a base, and what do you use to neutralize an acid? Stay tuned to the end of the video to find out. A quick tip on handling chemicals is to never assume the lid or cap is secure. Pick up the bottle each time with the label facing the palm of your hand. This way you can ensure a firm grip and that any chemical drippings occur on the opposite side of the hand. Unfortunately, sometimes when chemicals are spilled, they don't just end up on the table or floor, they end up on us. If a chemical comes in contact with your arms or hands, immediately rinse the area under a faucet for approximately 15 to 20 minutes. If a large amount of the chemical is spilled on you, begin treatment immediately. Get to a safety shower, remove all saturated clothing, pull the lever, and rinse for 15 to 20 minutes. Yes, I said remove your clothes. Better to save your skin than your ego. A classmate can help hold up a blanket or lab coat to shield you. If a chemical happens to get inside your eyes, immediately rinse them at the eye wash station for 15 minutes. You don't want to end up like my friend here, Mr. Bones. These are fume hoods. As you guessed, they are used to prevent us from inhaling harmful fumes. But they also help to prevent heavy vapors from escaping into the lab where open flames might be, causing an explosion. If you feel you have inhaled a volatile chemical, get fresh air immediately, especially if you're feeling faint or nauseous. Remember to keep the front sash below the marked level. This allows the fume hood to work efficiently. Reading your SDSs before class will alert you of when to use a fume hood during experiments. A smart habit to acquire in my book. A hard copy of the SDSs for all chemicals you will be exposed to and/or working with can be found in room 109 or on the CMC website under About, then Safety and Health. Being familiar with your lab safety equipment, along with how to calmly but quickly react to a dangerous situation, can be the difference between a minor and a serious injury. Let's talk about some pre-lab safety. On lab days, make a conscious effort to wear lab-appropriate attire. Wear closed-toed shoes, long pants, and long sleeves to protect your body from broken glass or any chemical spills. Lab coats provide a great protective barrier between you and harmful chemicals, making it easier to remove if a chemical does spill on you. Tie back any loose hair to prevent it from catching on fire or accidentally submerging into a chemical solution. Loose jewelry and baggy clothing are a potential hazard when working in the lab, as you can see. Refrain from consuming drinks, food, and/or gum in the lab. This will prevent accidental ingestion of chemicals. If accidental chemical ingestion does occur, seek medical attention immediately. I know makeup is a must for some of you before you leave the house, but sometimes chemicals and chemical vapors can get stuck to your makeup, chapstick, and/or lip gloss. If you wear contacts but also have glasses, wear your glasses. By wearing contacts in a lab with corrosive vapors present, the vapors can get in between your eyes and the contact lens, potentially adhering to your eyes. This can cause irreversible damage, even blindness. Keep backpacks and other personal items away from your experiments and out of the walkways. This helps to prevent slips, trips, and falls. Also, cell phones, laptops, and other electronic devices should be used for lab purposes only. Paying attention to your experiment is much more important than your social media. It can wait. With that said, never leave a Bunsen burner or hot plate unattended. Always turn the burner or hot plate off when not in use. Making these tips a habit allows you to become a strong force within our safety culture. Let's talk about some ways to protect yourself during a lab. Personal protective equipment, or PPEs, help to protect you from the 3 routes of exposure: inhalation, ingestion, and direct eye and skin contact. When you enter the classroom, make it a habit to grab a pair of gloves and goggles if you will be working with chemicals, heat, and/or glassware. I know it is so fashionably tempting to wear your goggles on your forehead, but they don't do your precious eyes any good up there. Take it from Mr. Bones over here. Continue to wear your goggles until all glassware, heat sources, and chemicals are put away by all of your classmates. If your neighbor has an accident, you want to be protected. Your professor is trained in safety procedures and first aid, but ultimately, your safety is your responsibility. We have arrived at the good old SDS, aka Safety Data Sheets and Labels portion of the video. An SDS will provide you in-depth information regarding potential hazards, proper handling, PPE, disposal procedures, plus much more. The chemical labels on the bottle will also state this information in a much more concise fashion. Making it a habit to read your lab handouts before class will give you the opportunity to look up the SDSs for the chemicals you will be using. A chemical label is designed to show important information in an easy and accessible way, regardless of your background with chemical use. Let's take a closer look. This is 6-molar hydrochloric acid, or HCl. These are pictograms, also known as the Globally Harmonized System, or GHS. They offer a straightforward understanding that this chemical should be handled with care. A poster with all of the pictograms and their full meanings are posted in your lab classroom. There are also signal words, such as this one that reads danger, with a full description of the reasons it has been labeled as danger or warning, what PPE to use, and what first aid measure to take if an accident does occur. Now, if you are working with bottles that have been prepared on the site, the mother bottle will be available for you to reference. Here is an example of what a handwritten label should look like and what information is required. A correct label includes the name and concentration of the chemical, date it was prepared, name of the person or group who prepared it, and, if possible, a pictogram and/or descriptive words. Leaving chemical containers unlabeled is unacceptable and very difficult to dispose of appropriately. Disposal. Dun, dun, dun. When you are finished with chemicals or chemical reactions, you must dispose of the waste. But how, you may be wondering? The biggest thing to remember is to always check with your professor before disposal, and never assume waste can go down the drain or in the trash. Successful disposal starts with knowing the composition of the waste. This is easily done by always remembering to label your chemical and waste containers, like such. Knowing the composition will allow you and your professor to know the compatibility and/or reactivity between specific chemicals. Mixing chemicals that are not compatible are the common cause of lab fires, something we all want to avoid. Typically, a waste container will be placed in a central location by your instructor or the instructional assistant. It should specify what the waste is and if it is a liquid or solid. Remember, if you have your own waste container at your lab station, it too needs to be labeled appropriately. Compatibility and reactivity are not the only things to consider when disposing waste. Some waste may be compatible but are treated differently when off-site. Also, some items such as filter paper that have been used in conjunction with chemicals have to be disposed of in a certain way as well. As mentioned earlier, always check with your professor before you dispose of any liquid or solid waste. We have covered a lot of fundamental topics of lab safety, but here are some common lab procedures that make for great habits during a lab. Try and remember these 3 C's: check, call, care. Check equipment for frayed wires. Call or alert the instructor and care for it as instructed. When working with glassware, check for any chips or cracks. If it is cracked, alert your instructor and dispose of it accordingly. Take the time to record what type of glassware it was, including the size, next to the corresponding drawer number in the comment section of your key sign-out log. Remember, if there are shards of glass present, use the glass cleanup kit to handle the glass. When heating glassware on a hot plate or Bunsen burner, remember to have a liquid inside to absorb the heat. Make it a habit to handle items such as hot crucibles or glassware with your provided hot mitts or tongs. Ask yourself this: does glass look hot when it is hot? Always proceed with caution. Also, let your glassware cool down slowly. Don't quench it with cold water, as this may cause the glass to shatter if there are micro cracks. Always keep flammables like methyl alcohol away from heating apparatuses such as Bunsen burners or hot plates. This can cause fires, flashback, or ignition of invisible vapors. When appropriate, use clamps and a ring stand with equipment such as vacuum filter flasks to secure them in place. Try and stand during lab experiments. This allows for a good distance between you and the experiment while giving you ample time to react if an accident does occur. Always add acid to water slowly. Using a stir bar and hot plate with a mixer helps to dissipate the heat generated when acid is diluted in water. Refrain from placing too heavy or hot objects directly on a balance. When finished using a balance, make sure to clean up any mess you have made. This makes for a happy camper when the next person needs to use it. Never smell chemicals directly. Use a wafting technique, or better yet, ask your instructor to help you identify a chemical if needed. Directly smelling a chemical can cause severe to irreversible damage to your sinuses and lungs. Remembering to label your beakers filled with chemicals will help prevent you from having to identify anything. If a chemical happens to spill around electrical equipment, do not touch anything. Alert the instructor immediately. Even though it is sometimes very tempting, never place excess chemicals back in the original container. This can lead to contamination. To prevent a transfer of chemical residue in unwanted places, remember to not touch your face, skin, phone, backpacks, doors, or any other public spaces while you have your gloves on. Remembering to remove your gloves before you exit the lab will help in achieving this goal. And always, always clean your area and wash your hands thoroughly when finished with your lab. Now it's time to test your knowledge. Hope you've been listening. Break up into groups of 3 or 4. A timer will appear on the screen, alerting you of the amount of time you have to answer each question. Your instructor will go through the answers with you at the end of this video. Remember, keep your answers within your group. There may be an incentive to win. Let's see how well you do as a team. First question. List 3 pieces of information missing from this handwritten label. The beaker contains an aqueous solution of NaCl that was prepared during a lab period. Your time starts now. Second question. When is it okay to leave an experiment and/or heating source such as a hot plate or Bunsen burner unattended? Your 10 seconds start now. Question 3. When diluting an acid with distilled water, what should be poured into what? Your time begins now. Let's move on to number 4. You notice you have an excess of unused sodium chloride. Would you return the unused NaCl to its original container, and why? And start. Time for number 5. She is about to start lab. Name 6 things wrong with this picture. Your time starts now. Okay, time for your bonus question. What do you use to neutralize a basic solution? I told you would get the answer at the end of the video. I just didn't say it would be from the video. I hope this has helped strengthen your confidence in the ability to prevent, stay calm, react, and be a strong role model for your lab community. Thinking of your lab as a community helps to remind you that everyone can be affected by your actions, including yourself. Remember, lab safety starts with you. I wish you the best, and I hope you thoroughly enjoy your semester with us in the CMC Science Laboratory. Ciao for now.